An elderly man left with no food for over a week because of coronavirus was helped by selfless nurse after he had crashed into her car. Lucy Duncan, 24, has described how she came to the aid of the terrified pensioner, who had been self-isolating after feeling unwell. The mental health nurse was on her way home from 12-hour shift at Wigan Infirmary on Thursday night, her seventh in row, when car bumped into hers, reports the Manchester Evening News. After following the vehicle until it stopped in the middle of the road in Abram, she realized the driver was an elderly man. The pensioner, 73, then grabbed her arm in desperation and told her he had not eaten for 7 to 10 days because he feared he had coronavirus. The man, who was by then sweating and drifting in and out of consciousness, told Lucy he had ventured out because he did not have any family or friends who could do his shopping. "I knocked on the window, he opened the door," Lucy, from Atherton, explained. "He reached out to grab hold of my arm. It was just surreal. It was not what expected at all. I had mask in my car, but nothing else. Put mask on. He put his on. He said he hadn't left the house for 7 to 10 days, hadn't eaten or had drink because he has not been able to get out of the house. He said he hasn't got any family or friends or anyone who can get him anything, so he got in the car to get some essentials. It was awful to see someone so poorly. He had beads of sweat dripping down his face. He was struggling to take breath." The worried nurse immediately called 999. After assisting paramedics, she then drove to A and waited with the man for 5 hours. The next minute, he would be concerned about his car, saying have got car insurance. She continued, "I said I'm not bothered about the car, you need to get an ambulance, you are not very well." When the ambulance came, they were struggling to find us. Had to keep running to the end of the street to flag the ambulance down. Every time ran to the end of the street, he kept turning his car on. He was so breathless going in and out of consciousness. Wanted to keep him sat down in the car. Lucy, mental health nurse on the urgent response team, added, "The ambulance did find us and they gave me gloves and an apron. Helped him into the ambulance. I stayed with him to be friend, but am nurse, so can help with little things too. Helped walk him to the ambulance and to make sure the paramedics were not putting themselves at risk that was unnecessary. I followed them to the hospital in my car. Gave him my contact number when left just if he needed anything while he was in hospital. I just wanted to make sure he was okay. Was concerned he was going to die and just didn't want him to die on his own with nobody there. He was really poorly." Lucy says that if the man recovers, she hopes to have coffee with him. She said, "When we were waiting in the bay, he gave me some money and said, bet you are tired after being with me, go get yourself coffee and get me one while you are there." I asked the nurses, but his oxygen levels were so low they couldn't take the mask off him. Hope he gets better so can have coffee with him. The nurse, who is now isolating herself from her family, is waiting to hear from the hospital if the man tests positive for COVID-19. "My family have all had to isolate themselves and leave the house so can go home," Lucy said. "They may need to isolate themselves until know if have been infected. But no have saved Mont's life." Lucy shared picture of herself after her shift on Facebook and wrote about the incident. The post has since gone viral, with many praising her for her hard work. Meanwhile, Simon Barber, chief executive of Northwest Boroughs Healthcare, described Lucy as superstar. "She is everything we could possibly want our staff to be and a shining example of true NHS compassion in these difficult times," he said. Lucy said, "Was reading all of the lovely comments. It is really nice to see but feel like was doing what anyone would do." The nurse says she will be calling the ward later to check the man's condition.